Good afternoon from FLIR. My name is Rob Millar, and it is my privilege today to go over our outstanding new product, the Elara FR-345-EST. If you're not familiar with FLIR or our EST solution, I will start with a very brief PowerPoint and then go right into this awesome technology. So, welcome to FLIR. FLIR has been doing non-contact temperature measurements since 1968. But our story with EST solutions starts 17 years ago during the SARS outbreak of 2003. In 2004, FLIR received its FDA certification on a multiple of thermal cameras. This 510K certification was then used for the H1N1 outbreak of 2009, the Ebola outbreak of 2014, and the coronavirus pandemic of 2020, and is still utilized today. Some of our competitors have been in the marketplace saying two things: mass screening and passive screening detection. Mass screening is screening a multiple of people with one camera, and passive screening is doing it without them stopping to identify. We want to remind our audience that the FDA announced as recently as April of last year that this technology should only be used to measure one subject's temperature at a time. In passive screening, the issue is we don't get to control what the person is wearing and what we are measuring. And mass screening, we will be measuring various parts and trying to compare them as one unified solution. The issue with this is, in this example, I am wearing a hat, glasses, and a COVID mask. And my FLIR camera is noticing that I have a temperature of 96.3 degrees. However, when I remove the hat and glasses and I identify myself to the camera, we now notice that my temperature is actually measuring at 97.9 degrees. On the same date, at the same time, just measuring a different area, we're getting a different temperature. A unified solution will focus on one part of that body and measure it against their peers to determine who has a higher temperature in that field. And again, the temperature area that we're going to measure is the canthus of the eye, the lacrimal gland, the inner eye area, the tear duct, however you want to call it. The real point is that it's ISO 13154 and FDA 510K certified. Looking at the canthus of the eye is a better area to read because it is more predictable, it's more consistent, despite varying external or internal factors. Now, real quick, I'd like to show off on the FLIR side our facial detection, and I'll use the FLIR EST software for this. Now, what you're going to see here is you're going to see that it's following the canthus of the eye wherever I go in that box. Now, the facial detection is not facial recognition. It's not saying, hey, this is Robert Millar. It's saying, hey, this is a face, and this is the area that we're looking to detect. That canthus of the eye area is going to be the most consistent area that we can measure. And again, FDA certified and maintaining ISO 13154 with many of the FLIR EST cameras. Now, we also do not utilize 98.6 degrees as a temperature measurement. We utilize a temperature range. So the reason that we do this is not everybody burns at 98.6 degrees. And there are various external or internal factors that can actually affect your temperature. Here in Florida, if I was to measure my temperature at 7:30 in the morning after being outside for 20 minutes, I would certainly be at a different temperature than if I measured myself again at 2 in the afternoon following the same parameters. It doesn't mean that I got unhealthy as the day went on. It's just the external temperature rose dramatically, and that can in fact affect my temperature. Similarly, if I used one solution at an elementary school and another at a retirement facility, I would likely find that there are completely different ranges of normal health. FLIR uses this temperature range and takes an individual and compares him against his peers at the same time of day enduring the exact same environmental conditions. And this leads to more credible results. Now, let's get into the fun stuff. Let's talk about the EST software. So let's log back on. All right, and now we're going to walk you through our FLIR software on the Elara 345-EST. So first, let me walk you through some of our system settings. Okay, some basic stuff like your firmware and your information, your network information, setting the appropriate date and time based on where you're located. Our users, we can create new users with this and give them password protection. Our alarm feature allows us to put an output on an elevated temperature, much like most EST solutions, or the opportunity to output on a normal temperature. So if someone actually gets a green result, a normal temperature, that can trigger a access control device to open the door. We can create an output for someone who's not wearing a facial cover. We can output on any type of alarm, and we can arm or disarm the analytics with an input. The I/O devices can be controlled right here from your computer. The cyber settings, we can actually either create or download a certificate to further harden the cyber security. But back in the view settings, we have some features over here on the left, which I'd like to go over. First of all, this is a thermal camera. You're looking at me at the optical version, but please keep in mind, we're doing the face detection and the temperature measurement utilizing the thermal camera. We do recommend that you keep it on the video because people will tend to linger and look at themselves when in a thermal environment. And the idea is to have the fastest throughput possible. Our I/O board is located over here also for your local and your external inputs and outputs. The screening is possibly the one that's most often utilized. For example, up here in the basic features, I could turn my temperature on and just hit the save button. Now, when I'm looking at myself in the camera, I am seeing my temperature. However, I want my display temperature read as off. The reason why I do this is because, again, throughput issues. If I'm having my temperature being measured, then I may stop and look at myself and say, hey, what's my temperature today? Why is that different than what I expected? By leaving it off of the screen, we're just making it most easy for a high throughput area consideration. I had mentioned the face covering detection. We're actually creating an analytic where it will not give you a temperature read until a face covering is detected. Now, currently as it stands, we're able to read with a face mask, which is incredible because a lot of times with the face detection, when I put on this mask, it's covering the bridge of my nose, it's covering the chin, it's covering about half of my face. It's making it very difficult for a thermal camera to recognize that that's a person. But even with this KN95 mask, when I slip it on, I'm getting a really quick read. No elevated temperature detected. That's actually fantastic. In the advanced settings, I can do a bunch of different things. A couple of things I like to go over. Sometimes when you have a red temperature, an alarm temperature, the red indicates a negative. So people may not want that in their office. So you can actually change your elevated temperature or your green temperature to whatever it is that you like. For an example, I'll set my normal temperature to alarm on blue. I'm also going to set up an acoustic warning so that you'll hear a bing when I get that correct temperature. So let's apply that and let's close it and let's jump back into the screen. Now, it's blue and you're hearing that acoustic sound. For the rest of this presentation, let's go ahead and turn off the acoustic warning and turn it back to green and close it out. Now, some of the other things I like to point out, if I want to remove these buttons on my left, just a simple click will bring it back to a full screen. If I'm looking at this utilizing a smart TV, this is going to be what my viewpoint looks like, meaning I have to do my configuration prior to setting up to that device. If I want this to be my designated look and I don't want anyone to interfere with that, I can lock it down. I just simply enter my password and it's locked down. For the sake of this presentation, we will not do that. I'll return it back to this viewing scene. What I'd like to do now, while I have your attention, is show you how fast our interaction with this camera truly is. So let's get a couple of quick reads with and without the mask, just to demonstrate the throughput that we can actually withstand with this camera. So clear, clear, clear. However, what happens when somebody wearing glasses come into the scenario? Keep in mind, we're measuring the canthus of the eye. It's telling me to remove my glasses. No problem. Take them off, and I get my green read. It's really that simple and that elegant of a solution. One last thing I will do for you, if you'd like to stick around, I'm going to go and microwave a wet paper towel, and I'm going to blot my eyes so I can get a high temperature read so you can see what that looks like as well. There is nothing I will not do for my audience. So let's get a high temperature. Okay, so by using a hot face cloth and putting hot water into the eyes directly, we have given ourselves an elevated temperature so you can see what that looks like. Now let me just pull myself off real quick. And we're back to normal again. So that is the Elara 345 EST. I'd really like to see what you think of it. So please contact us here at FLIR and let us know if you'd like a demonstration. I thank you very much for your time and have an excellent day.